think we're going to have to make some sacrifices, we're going to have to give up some things, but also there's new technologies that can make some of that work just fine in a very sustainable way. You know? I mean, I'm real excited about where we're going to be going with solar energy in particular, but I would say more than anything, conservation has to be the centerpiece of our energy policy.
Ed,
Yes, Rob.
this is something I'm grappling with right now, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. So, over the next 14 months, we're going to have somewhere between 30 and 40 people who are either running or thinking about running for president come to Iowa.
Yeah.
And obviously, I get the benefits of talking to them about climate change, and do that regularly, not exclusively, like I would have done before Trump. Right? Before Trump, it was an exclusive conversation. Now it's a broader conversation that includes climate. But how do you deal with, you know, how do you deal with the necessity of the defeat or getting past Trumpism? How do you deal with that and the climate issue? Where do you think how do you think they intersect? Because part of me, just as you think, part of me says getting past Trumpism is so primary that I'm not necessarily looking for somebody who's a climate champion. But on the other hand, part of me thinks climate is more urgent than ever. So that's the tension I'm feeling in my life.
Yeah,
as I think about politics.
I feel not only is climate more urgent than ever, but I think it's actually a really good platform to be campaigning on now. I love the way J.D. Scholten talked about it in his campaign against Steve King. And he was a guy who came closer than anybody has ever come to beating Steve King. And he talked very candidly about climate change. He came and spent a day with us on the march, or a part of a day, and talks about the economic opportunities for rural Iowa in sequestering carbon and other types of energy development. And, I think there's a real winning conversation there. So, yeah, I'm looking for a candidate to nominate or to win the caucuses who is not only going to win in November, but could also make climate really, really prominent. And I think those are very compatible. I think they're very, very compatible. Maybe more so now than perhaps they ever have been. Admit it. Even within the Democratic Party, we have a problem getting everybody on board on climate action. I mean, I loved you, by the way, in Bloomberg. That was great. Bloomberg's film, which is coming out next week. Rob is very, very fun.
Wednesday night, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, National
Very, very well done, Rob. Very well done. Cedar Rapids, it's called Paris to Pittsburgh. And it's a good film. But I talked to Bloomberg afterwards. Kathy and I talked to him. And, he's pro-fracking.
Yeah.
And he likes the pipeline.
How does he reconcile?
I don't. See, that's the challenge.
Yeah,
Even within the Democratic Party, Democrats who may get climate change, they don't get those other connections. You can't keep pumping the equivalent of 30 new coal-fired power plants into the atmosphere. So obviously our problem within the Republican Party is greater. Getting them to move beyond denial is a huge first step. And we're not there with most of them. So at least Trump has moved beyond saying that climate change is a Chinese hoax to now admitting that it's happening. He just won't admit that it's anthropogenic.
Depends what day you talk to him.
Well, it depends what day you talk to him.
Deregulation, putting people in charge of the earth that want to kill it. So a candidate could use that is about climate change, that it's a complete counter to his deregulation that is killing things even more, polluting it more.
I think there's a real opening here for the Democratic Party if it wants to take it to that. I know the conversation after the election was, we won the suburbs, and so if we can just build more power in the urban communities, we can run over rural America and still elect the people we need to. I think that's a bad strategy myself. I think we have to find ways of connecting with rural America. And I think there's plenty of ways to do that within the climate conversation. I mean, again, I look at some of the conversations I had on the march. I think, and I also think about the pipeline. A lot of the people I met when I walked from Keokuk to Lyon County, they're solidly against the pipeline. Often because of, most probably because of the abuse of eminent domain, but they were concerned about the water, about the land. In some cases about the climate. But they still voted for Donald Trump. We didn't give them enough reason to vote, to vote for Hillary Clinton. That's my thought. They just saw, well, she's not going to be with us on eminent domain and this and that, and I voted Republican, so I'll vote for Trump.
Obama wasn't either, so.
Well, I know, so we have to find a way to make it clear that the candidates have to find a way to make it clear that yes, they're pro-climate action, and yes, that's good for them. It's good for their communities.
Were you coming through Keokuk at the time they were battling the pipeline
I
there?
walked some from there to northwest Iowa, March and April of 2015. So before they were still talking about it, whether they were still trying to get permission. And then I wasn't down there for Mississippi Stand. We were working on a lot of other stuff
That
along the
was
pipeline.
later, Mississippi Stand was a little later.
Yeah,
That time.
2016, yeah. But yeah, now there's talk about another pipeline coming through, which is just insane. I think, we may win this one yet because it's in the courts. It's a really strong case. And a local guy, Wally Taylor, is one of the attorneys, so it's been a real gem. Other questions?
Just a random one. How many pairs of shoes did you go through?
That's actually the most commonly asked question. Is it really? Yeah. And the second question is, how much weight did you lose? 5 pair of shoes, and I lost 24 pounds.
How much of it have you gained back?
Most of it, not all of it actually. About a little more than half of it. That was pretty common. A lot of marshals never gained it all back. The other thing about shoes is my foot grew a whole size. So did Miriam's. They grew a whole size, and they never went back. All those shoes I had that were size 46 in metric, they don't fit me anymore.
Can I add, for those who buy the book, look at the photos, you can see, if you think of that 24 pounds lighter, you'll see those photos.
Well, I didn't quite, I was 151 then, in March.
What did you average per day?
15.6 miles. That included some short days, 9, 10, 11, and then some 21, 22 mile days.
Ever have a day off?
Yeah, every week we had a day off. Or as we stopped calling it a day off because it was just a work day. A different kind of work day. Instead of walking, we had also other work to do.
Did you carry your belongings?
No, we had a gear truck.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, which that became a bone of contention with some marches because they wanted us to give away the gear truck because it was polluting. I get that. It was a compromise. So they wanted us to push our gear in strollers and rickshaws, and some of us just weren't going to do that. So, anyways. But we did try to find a way to fuel the gear truck with biodiesel, but we never could pull it off. Yeah. But we did have a solar collector. The solar collector powered all of our phones, computers, our refrigerator, and it powered a coffee pot and a few other things too. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, Robin.
Ed, 2 things. One, I'd be interested in what your assessment of the awareness about climate issues is, in a broad brush way. And then what about the kind of disconnect that we have between the people we elect and the people who have to deal with stuff every day? And I guess the third thing I wonder about is given the political climate we've got and the kind of disconnects that we have with political elected leaders, what kind of work should we be doing?
Oh boy, you're expecting me to keep 3 thoughts in my head at a time? In terms of, I think it's really important that even if we elect somebody we really like, we have to continue to engage with them. Ashley, as great as she is, she probably needs us to hear from us once in a while, maybe often. Here's what we believe in. We like what you're doing. Can you do this differently? That feedback, that interaction is really, really important. And now I've lost the other two parts of your question.
Well, the first had to do with the level of awareness, the disconnect
Oh yeah,
that we
awareness,
have.
right. Let me take that one. Awareness. I think, did anybody follow the marriage equality debate closely and over time? Because, you remember back, there were days when Harvey Milk was killed. And there were days back in Des Moines when Jonathan Wilson, the school board member who came out.
Was outed.
Well, exactly, yes, he was outed by the far right. And forced and had to wear a bulletproof vest in order to stay alive. I mean, there were people from all across the country that hated gays that came here to try to work against him, and they did defeat him. There was John Schumacher, but I don't know how the guy lived. He traveled all over the state, openly gay, talking about equality, and plenty of threats, but he made it. Still alive. And when I came out to talk about marriage equality in 1996, I was told not to talk about it by the leader of our caucus. I was told that he said, you didn't want Democrats talking about it. And Democrats have come so far on that issue. Even in 2006, when I ran for governor, my opponents wouldn't come out and say they were for marriage equality. They would head around, well, I'm for domestic partnerships or something else. But look at how far we came just from 06 to 08. And by 08, everybody was on board, on the Democratic side at least. And now, everybody's on board. There's a few people out there. Bob Vanderput still hates gays. But, there's not many people out there who still are even able to say that publicly. So we came so far just from 06 to 08. What happened? Well, there was all that stuff that happened in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s that built to that. All that mattered. All that made a difference. Built up over time. And I think on climate, we're about there. We better be about there because the warning signs are really severe. But I think, I'm not just trying to be foolishly optimistic. I think we're about there. And I think that tipping point is coming. It's certainly coming in terms of climate change itself. But I think politically the tipping point is coming. We have the technology, we have the know-how, we can do this. We just need that final push where it comes together. And everything that's been done by even the big wigs, Al Gore and whatnot, is important. Even the folks at the little levels, at the grassroots levels. Every step we took in the march, it all matters. Everything, Rob's book, what a gem that is. Everything that's been done is important. And I think we're getting that. We're going to see it too.
So what should we be doing now?
Well, again, personal changes are really important, but more than anything, we need political change. And whatever we can do to push for that. And I would say, they still endorse me actually, but I just challenge them not to, not to be so wasteful. And I noticed that the next time they did an interview, they didn't have plastic water bottles. But yeah, it's kind of overwhelming. The part of the challenge is we have to pace ourselves. We're not machines. We're human beings. We gotta eat and sleep and live and love and take care of ourselves, and then find a way to keep going and maximize our ability to do the right thing. So, thank you.
I think the bottled water came about because people started becoming more aware that water's good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't used to care or go for the plastic bottles. Yeah. So they're trying to drink more water. That's
Yeah.
good.
More water, less pop. That's
But
good.
they can just take that same plastic bottle and refill that.
Yeah. One step at a time. Well, thank you all for coming. And I recognize my partner Kathy, who put in about, several hundred hours editing the book, doing the indexing, and has done so much to help make this possible. Suggestion, please buy a book if you haven't already, and if you like this idea, there are businesses, maybe Raygun even, there are certainly libraries that would love a copy of the book, or the locally owned bookstores. If you'd like
X-Page Books,
Yeah.
across the street.
So if you'd like to pick up another, one thing I can't do is I can't go and deliver books to all these independent bookstores because they sell them on consignment. There's no way I can manage that. But if you want to pick up a couple extra books, bring it to a bookstore. Great, thank you. And you can always get them online. You can buy them on Amazon, but I encourage you to go to the Bold, Iowa website because all the money for this goes to our climate work. And if you buy it on the Bold site, we get twice as much as if you buy it on Amazon. Amazon takes a big cut. At least they're paying people $15 an hour now.
And then
important because I like to send out a weekly message about what we're working on. And I don't inundate people, but I try to keep in touch. Once I sent out a message, encouraging people to support action. A while back. So, yeah, I'd be happy to keep in touch with you that way. So, thank you. It took us 9 days to walk across it, and there is nothing in the Mojave Desert. We had all of our food. We never ran out of food. We had to send the truck out once to get more water. But Mojave Desert, California, it's as you walk, we're driving east of Los Angeles. You come to that, and then at the end of it is the Colorado River in Arizona. So, but it's an intimidating place. People are concerned about driving across it. People are walking across it. We passed a sign earlier today that warned of no services for the next 100 miles. Shortly after, as if sent by a higher power to hammer home the severity of that warning, a man in his 60s driving a beat-up Chevy pulls alongside us. He rolls down his window, stares for a few seconds, and asks, "What the hell are you doing?" His raspy, caustic voice sounding more annoyed than curious. We're walking across the country to get people to understand the urgency of climate change, I say. "Oh, you don't believe that climate change bullshit, do you?" The man mocks, certain of his own unshakable scientific literacy. He pauses for several seconds, glancing up the road toward the vast expanse of the Mojave, toward a landscape that, from my point of view, appears as forbidding and foreign as the moon. "You aren't planning to walk across that, are you?" he says. "Well," I say, "it's the Great March for Climate Action, not the Great Car Ride for Climate Action." I deadpan, abandoning the prospect of converting my inquisitor and embracing this opportunity to let my inner smartass frolic. "You're out of your fucking mind," he yells. "Have you been out in the sun too long?" "Yes," is my simple and honest response, as the man drives away, muttering more expletives and something about dying in the desert. Nice guy. That was like one of the few bad encounters I had, other than a few pickup truck drivers who got too close or that spewed that black cloud into the air as they went by us. But this was probably my most favorite personal interaction with somebody, partially because it landed me a steak dinner. But I rented this family when I was in Culbertson. It was 4th of July. We'd just been in the parade, which was so cool. And then I went to a library fundraiser and met the Kramer family. And Corky Kramer says, that's the woman, says, when you're in McCook tomorrow, you stop in and we'll give you dinner. So the march from Culbertson to McCook is a tough 21 miles. The mercury hits 101 degrees as I land at Corky's home in mid-afternoon. She, her husband, her daughter, and a friend are hunkering down under the blistering heat. It's too early for a steak dinner, but I've arrived just in time for a big slice of key lime pie. Corky offers me a second piece, and I do not refuse. This is just what my body's been craving, I say. I'm ready to walk another 21 miles. Who's in? Corky and her friend laugh. And then our conversation turns serious. She and her family are evangelical Christians and solid Republican voters. I've been in Nebraska for almost a week, I say, and I've only met one Democrat. But most of the Republicans I talk with think we're doing a good thing with this march. I think it's important that we're trying to raise awareness about climate change, even though most Republican elected officials deny climate change is even happening. Corky shares my concern that our planet is in peril. Something needs to be done. I don't know exactly what's causing climate change, but I know that we can't go on the way we are, destroying our Earth with so many chemicals and waste products. What about your faith, I asked? Does that speak to the problem? More than anything, says Corky, Jesus was concerned about the welfare of people, especially the poor and the needy. He dealt mainly with their spiritual and physical needs, but I know Jesus wouldn't want us abusing the land like we're doing. Corky was serious about the steak dinner. She also offers to put me up at a friend's motel in downtown McCook. That's sure kind of you, I say. I'm truly grateful. It'll give me a chance to get caught up on some work, too. So she puts me up in a hotel and brings me a steak dinner. And I have a couple of regrets about that. One is that I missed Rob Ho. Rob came through our camp that night. Yeah. And that was, it turned into be a horrible experience, actually, because it was a really hot night, beautiful night. But somehow the park officials did not get the message, and we were really meticulous about this. I don't know how they didn't get the message that they got to turn the sprinklers off. Because at 2 in the morning, they went off. And marchers had the tents open, no flies because it was warm and sunny, no rain, and they just got nailed. I felt badly that I missed that experience to suffer. But anyway, it was quite an experience. I think the book is something you'll enjoy. I've been told it's readable. And hopefully the story is interesting enough to bring people into the important message that climate action is needed now. And yeah, I do want to recognize you all. I'm sure everybody knows Rob Poe. And yeah, when you were coming through, that was 4 years ago. You had your book. You were out doing your book tour. I need to compare notes with you to get some context. But it's a really important thing you did there with that book. Anyway, I'll take questions and comments. And I apologize to my mom, who might be watching, but I dropped the F-bomb twice. It's only in the book 11 times, Mom.
And I'm
Yes.
curious, you mentioned Corky being a Christian and, you know, the religious take on climate change. Did you encounter other people of faith who saw it as their Christian duty or whatever faith it might have been to do something about climate change?
Yes, and most prominently, Native communities. We had such incredible interactions all the way across the country with Native Americans, especially in New Mexico. The only reason we made it across New Mexico was because of the kindness of indigenous peoples that we met there. And there, I really think the perspective that indigenous people bring to how we relate to our environment is, we need that right now more than anything. That message is so important. And it's one reason I've been excited to be able to work more with Indigenous Iowa and other Native groups who are helping to lead the charge against the Dakota Access Pipeline. Beyond that, I would say the one other, from a spiritual point of view, New Mexico is an amazing place, by the way. I've never realized what an incredible, almost otherworldly place New Mexico is. But all the way from Taos, actually even before that, but there was a Catholic sanctuary there called Chimayo that we spent a day at. That was amazing. Yeah, and they were very hospitable to us, and the whole perspective on a pilgrimage, something we can relate to. I talk about that in the book too. But then, for like an entire week, we were just staying in different spiritual communities, a Hindu temple, a Buddhist sutta, is that what I'm saying right? A commune of aging hippies that washed our feet and gave us a really beautiful locally grown lunch. Just one place after another had this different, the Lama Center, there was different spiritual perspectives that all kind of, reflected on their support for what we were doing and their concern about the environment and about the planet. So I think if there's a spiritual perspective out there that doesn't embrace climate action, I don't understand what that would be, because everyone we met got it. Yes?
When the 3 days I was on the climate march, I was really impressed with the people I met, the young people in particular. I mean, Mary Kashia was amazing because she was 71 years old, and she passed me, and I felt terrible. But have you heard, I assume you keep in touch with some of these people because you had to get really close to them.
Not all of them, yeah.
But I was just wondering if any of them what has happened to them.
Well, a lot of them are still doing good work. Miriam is amazing how much work she's still continuing to do at age 75. There are some of them, I mean, we had some real horrible conflicts developed during the march. And those kind of came to a head when David was on. And, some of those people, I mean, I would love to reconnect with everybody, but some of them are just kind of those conflicts occurred and they just moved on. But I do keep in touch with some of them, but not as much as I'd like. I did run into maybe a half dozen people from the march in Paris back in 2015 for the UN Climate Summit. It was funny, marchers had walked from 3 different places to come to Paris for that conference. But there's a lot of good work still going on. Another Des Moines marcher, Jeffrey Serwick, he's back doing his restaurant work in Des Moines. but last I talked to him, he's starting to feel like he needs to be getting involved in something again. So I think with some people it spurts, some it was a one-time thing, I think, but for most it's kind of inspired them to continue to do things. Yeah, and again, thank you for, I forgot you were for 3 full days, yeah. You got a really good taste of it.
You know, I'm just amazed at the physical, the hardness of the march. And you could probably speak on it too, but, you know, I had been walking around, you know, trying to get my steps in. That had no effect on it. It was just hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, going through a rainstorm and getting wet and not wearing the right kind of underwear. That, you know, that stuff like you don't learn until you're doing it and it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some of that stuff you just can't prepare for. Yes.
I was wondering on this march, do you feel that you changed it in any way?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
In what ways?
Well, I said that in the introduction to the book. I knew the march would change everybody's life. I knew it would change mine, but I didn't expect. I mean, I don't even remember what I was expecting, but I came away really understanding how important it is to have a strong, you know, set of guidelines for any community of people, whether it's a city or a state or a family or a neighborhood. You have to have really, really clear parameters in terms of how people interact and operate, and what if there are sanctions in place when things don't go right. You got to have that, and we had that going into the march, but what we didn't have was a way to keep it centered and focused and enforced, and it gradually kind of spun out of control. So, for example, you know, staff was supposed to be responsible for organizing rallies and the route. You know, marches got more involved with that, and it became chaos. I mean, coming into Chicago was just a mess. You know, our coordinator in Chicago just ended up quitting after Chicago because it was so bad. And then we never bothered to hire people in Indiana or Ohio or Pennsylvania because it became so problematic. So that's one thing I learned, is that it's really, you know, I think there were some who would like to have seen the march basically be kind of a hippie commune. And I joked that, well, we'd be better operated as an army battalion. But honestly, maybe the best model is a small town. You know, where there's a level of intimacy, but there's also some really clear standards and rules and regulations and accountability. So that's one thing. I came out of it being more enamored with the importance of structure.
But did you vet people who joined in on the march?
As best we could, but you know, but sometimes people come in and then their expectations change. I mean, people knew, for example, that we had paid staff, but for one march in particular, that became a huge bone of contention. Thought everybody should be volunteer, that we should fire all the staff. People came in knowing that, but that became their perspective grew on it. They decided it was something they were really much against, and it became more important to that person, I think, than the climate conversation itself, which was problematic. So there were lots of, again, you came during the heat of some of the most problematic conflicts. You want to weigh in on that, or should I just let it go?
I think you're describing it pretty well, and I was surprised that people, all of whom were there for a good reason, could decide that they would be real hateful towards one another. That did surprise me a little. There were some really malicious things.
Yeah, just a few, but it can kind of poison the whole conversation. And again, I look back at all the mistakes I made, most of which I try to chronicle here. I made so many mistakes, things I could have done differently. So people ask me, so would you do this again? And I say, no way. But I'm really, really glad I did it once. And if I did do it again, I know so many things I would do differently. Actually, right now there's a group talking about organizing another big climate march across the country, and I'm happily talking to them about what they might want to consider and what they might want to avoid. But I think the best defense against communal dysfunction is to have a lot of clear standards, clear expectations. I mean, one expectation that I had at the beginning that I myself abandoned, and I wish I hadn't, was we should walk together. That's really, really important. When you start spreading out, you increase the risk. you also decrease the visibility and the prominence of what the march is trying to accomplish. And also you kind of create this disconnect. If different little cliques go off and walk here and there. So. It's a great question.
How were you received in Washington? Did you go to?
Yeah, we did make it. I don't want to spoil the book, but yeah, we
Oh.
did make it. No, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
We did make it, but actually we made it on schedule, but it wasn't the type of reception we hoped for. But what did happen was, Tom Vilsack and I got elected the same year. Him to the Senate, me to the House. And we got along pretty well, and then he got elected governor, and then we fought all the time. I didn't like the values fund, I didn't like him signing the official English bill. We had a whole bunch of CAFOs, we had a whole bunch of issues we disagreed on. And I remember I would go to things and Christy would just like glare at me. She was so mad at me for beating up on Tom. But we're disagreeing with him. But then afterwards we got together, we talked, we had coffee a few times and kind of agreed that we really both felt strongly about campaign finance reform. So that became a really important piece of the march, even though I had no idea at the time when I was trying to rebuild that bridge, because when back to the Mojave Desert, we weren't going to be allowed to walk to camp anywhere in the Mojave. The Bureau of Land Management said, no, you can't camp anywhere. So I called Tom, and he called Sally Jewell, who at that time under Obama was head of the Department of Interior. And she was able to work some strings. And one day, I was walking across the Mojave thinking, any day we're going to get arrested, we're going to get thrown out because we've been camping illegally. And a BLM car pulls up. The guy gets out and he says, are you Ed Fallon? I says, yeah. Well, here's a letter authorizing you to camp anywhere you want on BLM land. So Vilsack was instrumental in that. And then he was instrumental, I'm getting to your point. He was instrumental in helping us set up a meeting with Obama's key climate staff in Washington, D.C. at the end of March. So we were hoping to meet with the president himself, but we knew that might be a long shot. But to be able to meet with the key people involved with climate, the clean energy plan, that was really important. I doubt we'd get that audience with Donald Trump. So, kind of doubt it. Yeah, Rob.
Do you know anybody who's in, you went to Paris and you had to walk in France, right?
Yeah.
Do you know anybody doing that right now in Poland?
I don't, but I would be really surprised if it's not happening because there were two of us who walked we set out from Normandy Beach on Armistice Day, walking to Paris with the same message as the first segment of the book that I read. And then at the same time, there was a group going from Rome to Paris with kind of a religious focus. And then there was more secular focus of a group coming from Holland, Netherlands to Paris. I would be shocked. And also, there was also somebody coming all the way from the Philippines to Paris. A group from the Philippines. I don't know how they did that. So I'm pretty sure there's something happening. I just don't know what it is. I would be surprised, in fact, if it's not more than one march. Why are you thinking about it?
No. One of the things I was struck about this conference in Poland, it's been advertised as being put in the coal-producing region of Poland. It's also very, very close to Auschwitz.
Oh, really?
It's like 15 miles from Auschwitz.
Which is still operated as a museum of sorts, a memorial, right?
I don't know, I just saw that.
Yeah.
That whole conference hasn't got much attention.
Yeah. It didn't play as much as Paris did. Yeah.
There's new talk and momentum in Washington about the Green New Deal.
Yes.
Can you talk if you agree and how you see that?
Well, I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about all the brilliant, progressive, diverse young people who are getting elected to office. Thank you. And I think we've seen a tremendous, I'm hoping our Iowa delegation, I'm hoping Abby Schmidt-Schauer, who supported the pipeline, but I hope to help her work on her and try to get her to see that the pipeline is not a good thing for Iowa or the climate. And Cindy Axley, who I think has a stronger track record in the environment. So I'm hoping that our new delegation can work to, the new members of our delegation can work with Alexandria Cortez, Ocasio-Cortez, and some of the other brilliant young people, young lawmakers who I think are not pulling any punches, and they're and I I saw Chuck Schumer come out the other day with a strong letter to President Trump saying, if we're going to do an infrastructure bill, climate has to be a central piece of that conversation. So maybe the old guard is also starting to understand that the leadership being provided by this new blood is something that they're going to have to embrace and run on as well. Yeah.
So what are you doing in your life to make climate, to lessen climate change?
Personally,
And the reason I bring this up is I hear this from politicians. You know,
yeah.
you just mentioned Schumer and the others,
Yeah.
and they jet around and spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
They tell us that we have to change. I don't see it coming from our leaders, if they believe it or not.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really good point. I mean, I do think that the most important changes have to be the institutional changes, government.
But what are you
Business,
doing?
academic.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
my question.
Yeah, no, and I